Very rarely is a budget smartphone as hyped as the brand new Redmi Note 7 Pro. But does it live up to the hype? Do we have a new budget smartphone king in the form of the Redmi Note 7 Pro? Well, it's time we find out. Hey guys, this is Rupesh from bwom.com and welcome to our Redmi Note 7 Pro review. Now, a lot of you guys have a lot of questions around the Redmi Note 7 Pro and well, hopefully we'll be able to answer them all in this full review. Anyway, before we get started, I'd suggest you to hit the bell icon to get notified every time we post an awesome new video. Now that you've done that, let's talk about the Redmi Note 7 Pro. Okay, so this here is the Redmi Note 7 Pro, and with all the hype around the Redmi Note 7 Pro, I'm pretty sure you all know about the highlights of this phone. There's the new refreshed design, the 48 megapixel Sony IMX586 camera, and the new Snapdragon 675 processor. So yes, this is a Redmi Note that packs in some major upgrades, and that's what makes this phone truly exciting. First off, let's start off with the design here. With the Note 7 Pro, Xiaomi has finally ditched the bland metal design, and now you get the glass front and the glass back that looks and feels amazing. The back here features Gorilla Glass 5 like the front, and that means it's not prone to scratches or scuffs like say the Realme 2 Pro or the Zenfone Max Pro M2, which by the way have a plastic back that looks like glass. Anyway, on the front there's the teardrop notch here that gives the phone a really modern look. There's still the chin here, but I'm not complaining since this is a budget smartphone. Plus, the Redmi Note phones have always had good displays, and the Redmi Note 7 Pro is no exception. The LCD display here is just as good as it gets in this price range. It's vibrant, and even though it's not the brightest, it gets the job done outdoors, so no problems on the display front. The front also has the notification LED on the bottom chain, which is a nice surprise. I mean, most phones with the teardrop notch tend to skip this, so kudos to Xiaomi here. Apart from that, I like the perfectly placed tactile buttons on the Note 7 Pro and the fact that it has everything, including the headphone jack, the IR blaster, and the USB-C port, which is still a rarity in this price range. Hopefully, this is the year when all budget phones will have the USB-C port. There's also the fingerprint scanner here, which is placed perfectly and it's really fast, just the way I like it. So you get the idea, right? The Redmi Note 7 Pro packs in everything in a premium looking design. For a budget phone, that's almost perfect. Plus, I almost forgot, even though the Note 7 Pro does not have an IP rating, it has a P2I water repellent coating, so some splashes of water should not affect the phone, so that's pretty nice. Okay, so moving on to the next highlight, the 48 megapixel camera on the back. Now this is a true 48 megapixel sensor here. We are talking about the Sony IMX586 48 megapixel sensor that's featured in higher-end phones like the Mi 9 or the Honor View 20. So it's just impressive to see a phone that's priced so low packing in a high-end camera sensor. Now let's get to the camera performance. So in good light, the Note 7 Pro captures photos that are bright, detailed and have great dynamic range. I don't like the fact that some photos come out a bit over-sharpened, but overall I like the photos that this phone captures. I mean, at times the phone surprised me with some amazing photos like this one. Yeah, this is a bit oversaturated, but this is a photo I really like. The portrait mode is decent too, but most of the times I found the edge detection to be finicky, as you can see in this photo. So yeah, it's not the best out there. The Redmi Note 7 Pro camera is pretty good in the low light too, which is where most budget smartphones tend to struggle. I like the fact that the Note 7 Pro cameras focus on taking a good photo in low light rather than just amping up the brightness like most budget phones do. Yes, sometimes the Note 7 Pro's cameras messes up, but mostly the performance is above average. There's also the night mode here, which like the night mode on the Mi Mix 3 is fairly subtle. As you can see, there's not a huge difference in these photos, but I like how the night mode photos are slightly more detailed and brighter. So yeah, it's a good feature to have, especially on a budget smartphone. Do note that all the photos that we just showed you are 12 megapixel photos and not 48 megapixel photos, because the 48 megapixel option in this phone is pretty useless. Now, there are two ways to shoot 48 megapixel photos in the Note 7 Pro, and they're both rather useless. Okay, so there's a 48 megapixel mode in the auto mode, and there's one in the Pro mode as well. And I found both of them to be pretty useless. Check out a 12 megapixel shot and a 48 megapixel auto mode shot side by side. Now, they both look similar, right? Now, let's just zoom in on the top of the building. See, there's no difference whatsoever. The same is the case in almost all of these photos. Some 48 megapixel photos have slightly more detail, but it's a very small difference, so it's not a big deal. And I'm not going to use it because the 48 megapixel mode just makes the camera experience so slow and laggy. First of all, it takes a lot of time to process, and while it's processing, don't you dare do anything else or you lose the photo. Secondly, there were times when the 48 megapixel shot would keep on processing for 20-30 seconds only to result in an error. Yeah, it's not good, and hopefully Xiaomi fixes this with an update. The 48 megapixel mode in the Pro mode isn't as buggy, but it produces photos that aren't better. In fact, they're inferior. Check out this comparison. Now, in this comparison, I like the 12 megapixel shot mode. It's more detailed, the colors are better, it's just better. Here's another comparison, and again, I like the 12 megapixel shot mode. So yeah, overall, I'm not going to use the 48 megapixel modes in the Redmi Note 7 Pro. But apart from that, the cameras here are pretty good. But how does it fare against the competition? Well, I put the Note 7 cameras against the Zenfone Max Pro M2, the Galaxy M30 and the Realme 2 Pro. Well, as you can see in these photos, the Note 7 photos do have a little more detail and the shadows look better too. Let me just show you by zooming in. Yeah, it's not a huge difference to be honest, but yeah, I like the photos from the Note 7 Pro better. In low light, like I said, the competition just brightens up the shot while the Note 7 Pro takes photos that are just more pleasing. Now, the Note 7 Pro photos aren't always better than the competition, but on most occasions, they are better, so that's what matters. Moving on to videos, the Redmi Note 7 Pro can shoot videos up to 4K at 30 FPS, and well, I've been pretty impressed with its video capabilities. Check out a 4K video I shot from this phone. Now, it's not as stable as I'd like since there's no OIS, but I like the quality here. Everything looks crisp, well focused and detailed, so yeah, it's good. Plus, if you want more stability, you can always shoot in 1080p. Check this out. So this was actually a very rough pathway, and still the Note 7 Pro managed to keep things so stable. I mean, I was really impressed when I shot this. This is really good. Now, compared to others, you'll notice that the Note 7 Pro video is the best. It's more stable and it has the best quality too. Yes, the Realme 2 Pro comes very close when it comes to stability, but the M30 and the Max Pro M2 are just nowhere near. Lastly, on the camera front are the selfies. The Note 7 Pro features a 13 megapixel camera here and it's decent. I mean, in good lighting, the Note 7 Pro selfies are pretty good with good details, but move to low light and you get selfies that look soft and not so impressive. So yeah, the selfies here aren't anything extraordinary, but it'll make do. So overall, the Note 7 Pro has some really capable cameras. I know the portrait mode isn't the best and the 48 megapixel modes in this phone aren't as exciting as they seem, but apart from that, the Note 7 Pro takes some great photos and great videos, which for me makes it the best camera phone in its price segment. Another highlight of the Redmi Note 7 Pro is the performance. The Note 7 Pro packs in the new Snapdragon 675 processor, which is a processor used by the likes of the Vivo V15 Pro, another high-end phone. See, I'm generally skeptical about a budget phone's performance in day-to-day usage, but this is a phone I'd happily use as a daily driver. Now, day-to-day tasks are a breeze, no issues whatsoever. Yes, there is the occasional stutter when you have a lot of apps open in the background, but I won't say it's a huge problem, because I only faced this when I had PUBG or Asphalt 9 in the background. Apart from that, the phone handles heavy-duty games with a lot of ease. PUBG Mobile runs on high graphics settings by default, which is not something you see in a budget smartphone. And while it's definitely playable on high, there were a few minor stutters which doesn't really ruin the experience, but if you want flawless performance on PUBG Mobile, you should switch to medium graphics settings. I also played Asphalt 9 on the phone and the Note 7 Pro runs that like a champ. No issues here. So like I said, the performance on the Redmi Note 7 Pro is great. It's just really good. But there's one small problem I have with the Redmi Note 7 Pro, and that's MIUI. See, MIUI is not something I hate. I like the fact that it's feature-packed. I mean, I've always maintained that MIUI's navigation gestures are one of the best implementation of gestures. Plus, I like the fast face unlock and a lot of other features. So yes, there's a lot to like in MIUI, but some of its quirks are just too annoying. Now, I have just one particular issue with MIUI, and that's ads. Look, I'm okay with all the usual ads in the MIUI apps, but ads in the lock screen? Seriously, Xiaomi? Okay, so MIUI 10 on the Redmi Note 7 Pro has the wallpaper carousel feature, which I know is an old feature, but on the Redmi Note 7 Pro, it's being used to bring different promoted stories, which are basically ads. I know I can turn it off, but it's just not cool. Anyway, that's not everything. There are ads even in the app installation screen. So even when you install apps from the Play Store, you get this page, which in itself is surprising, but this page has ads and it's just sad. Anyway, apart from that, the Redmi Note 7 Pro has the usual 4000 mAh battery. Now I'm saying it's usual because of the Redmi Note standards, but 4000 mAh is still pretty good if you think about it, and well, it shows. In my usual usage, the phone lasted me well over a day. I would start the day at 100% and by the end of the day, the phone would be around 30% to 35% in medium to heavy usage. When it comes to charging, the Redmi Note 7 Pro comes with a 10-watt charger, which I think is a letdown. I mean, Xiaomi finally moved to USB-C and Quick Charge 4 on the Redmi Note series, and they're still giving us the 10-watt charger. Anyway, the 10-watt charger takes 2 hours and 20 minutes to charge the Note 7 Pro from 10 to 100%, and that's okayish. I also charged the phone with Poco F1's 18-watt fast charger, and it took around 2 hours to go from 10 to 100%, which is pretty good. So you can buy a fast charger to quickly charge the phone. I will leave a link to some fast chargers below so you can check them out. Apart from all that, there are a lot of common questions that you guys have around the Redmi Note 7 Pro. So let me just answer them. First off, there's a lot of confusion around the Widevine L1 license in the Note 7 Pro. Now, as we showed you in our first impressions video, the Note 7 Pro does have the Widevine L1 license, which technically means it should be able to play HD videos on apps like Netflix and Prime Video. But weirdly, it does not. Yes, HD playback is not supported in these apps on the Note 7 Pro, but this is something Xiaomi can fix with an update, so I'm hoping they do. I mean, a recent poll on Twitter suggests that 30% of the voters like watching Netflix on their phones at full HD, so yeah, this is a big deal. Anyway, a lot of you guys also asked us if the phone has Camera 2 API. Well, we checked and yes, it does have Camera 2 API, and that means Google Camera should work fine on this phone. Okay, so it's time to conclude things now. So should you buy the Redmi Note 7 Pro, which starts at Rs 14,000? Well, the short answer is yes. Yes, this is a budget phone that's definitely the new budget smartphone king in the Indian smartphone market. Look, to be honest, MIUI is not something I'm a huge fan of, and Xiaomi is somehow making things worse. But apart from that, the Redmi Note 7 Pro offers so much for its price. Seriously, it has a premium design that features everything. Performance that matches some of the higher end phones. Cameras that are just the best in this price segment, and some solid battery life with fast charging support. I know there's a lot of competition in the form of the Zenfone Max Pro M2, the Realme 2 Pro and the Galaxy M30, but the Redmi Note 7 Pro trumps them all on almost all fronts. The Note 7 Pro brings Xiaomi back to the lead. It will be the budget smartphone to beat in 2019. Well, that was our review of the Redmi Note 7 Pro, and I hope we have answered all of your questions around this new exciting budget smartphone. But if you still have any questions, just comment below and we'll make sure to reply for the first hour once the video goes live. So comment below. Also, give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and share it with your friends who have been confused about the Redmi Note 7 Pro. Lastly, subscribe to our channel for more amazing tech videos. Well, that's me signing off. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.